Hey guys, welcome into the Starcastic Remarks Studios. My name is Ryan. I'm the host of Starcastic Remarks, and along with Chris, we are the official Dallas Stars podcast of the Hockey Podcast Network. We are brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. Use that promo code THPN the next time you go and use the DraftKings app. In tonight's game, the Stars lose by a final score of 4-1, although it wasn't as bad as it sounds by that final score throughout the game. But Chris, give me your original thoughts from this game, because I feel like there's some pretty obvious ones for tonight's game.
Well, my first thought is that we gave away the 2 points that we stole the other night, because we really should have won this game hands down. The amount of outstanding chances we had that didn't go in the net was staggering.
I agree, and I think that's the difference in today's game, and specifically Esa Lindell. I get the first one. The first one was an amazing save. That was just Demko being Demko. That second one has to go in. That second one absolutely 100% has to go in. And that's the difference in tonight's game. There really is. You make that shot. I mean, he didn't even have to elevate it, to be honest with you. He could have just, I mean, it would have been fine. But just because he didn't make that shot, this game goes in favor of the Vancouver Canucks. Before we get into tonight's game, though, Chris, you have some pretty exciting news, just personal news for yourself, right?
Oh yeah, the disc golf thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Aggie team is going to disc golf nationals in North Carolina, so I'll be there for the first week of April. So don't know about if I'll be able to do podcasts from there. We'll see when I get there, but pretty cool. So who knew out of our family I would be the D1 college athlete? Not me. I wouldn't guess that, but here we are.
Didn't Zach do something for UNT as well for disc golf? I can't remember. I swear he did something like that, but anyways, that's a cool thing, Chris. I just wanted to make sure that we mentioned that, because I didn't have any super cool things like that when I was in college. So
yep, I'm so unique.
So unique. So you just want to get straight into the game summary tonight?
I guess, man.
Yeah, it's just thinking about this game. I closed it out after watching it on ESPN Plus, and I was just like, how do I really feel about this game? Because the Stars literally did everything they could. I thought there were some things they could have done better. They just didn't bury their chances. And you're exactly right about this. Felt like we should have had these 2 points tonight, and we gave back those 2 points that we stole from Carolina. And I'm just going to go ahead and get into this. Is probably the worst part of all of this is that Vancouver is one of the teams that is trying to catch us for that final wild card spot. I still believe it's our spot, even though we're not currently in that spot, because Vegas, we have 4 or 5 games in hand on Vegas, and they only have 1 point above us right now. So you would think that we would be able to win 1 out of 4 games, but that's just my opinion. I think it's still our spot. But this is a team that we need to beat. We can't give them 2 points at this point in the season, and now they're only 2 points behind us. Yes, we have 2 games in hand on them, but we could have very easily controlled the situation of the playoff standings tonight, and we didn't.
Yeah, a win here almost puts them out of it, really, when you look at the points and our games played. But I mean, this gives them life. They're still in it now, which is insane from the beginning of the season. But it was an important game, and just a really, like the whole game, a squandered opportunity, which right. I'm sure we'll talk about plenty of those throughout the game.
And speaking of the standings, I was watching the Vegas and Chicago game earlier, and that was insane. That third period was a lot of fun to watch. But going into the second intermission, Chicago was up 3-0, and then they lost in overtime 5-4. And that worries me a lot, because this can be a turning point in Vegas' season. And yes, I know we still have 4 games in hand on them. But if they get any kind of momentum out of that game, we're in a lot of trouble, because that's the last thing that we need is competition for the last wild card spot. And right now, I mean, Vancouver is looking better. Winnipeg is playing really well as well. Vegas is
Yeah.
still there. They had a really good game today where they came back in a game they should have won. And I'm just worried that this game for Vegas is going to be a turning point for them, starting to get over this really bad streak that they've been on. And I mean, it's been really bad for
Yeah.
Vegas.
It's hard for me to believe that Vegas is going to miss the playoffs for the first time because like their team, like roster wise, is so good. And I mean,
Everybody's hurt.
everybody's hurt,
Everybody's hurt.
but people are coming back too. You got to remember. So
Mm-hmm.
I think Vegas is going to make the playoffs. They might jump Edmonton for that spot, and then maybe we have to beat Edmonton. But I don't believe that Vegas will miss.
I do, personally, just because they've had too many injuries, and I don't think it's 100% their fault. They're relying on Logan Thompson, was an ECHL goalie, a year and a half ago, and now he's the starter in the NHL for the Vegas Golden Knights. And as much as I hated Chicago squandering that lead and losing the game in overtime like they did, I mean, it couldn't have been any worse because Vegas gets 2 points and Chicago gets a point as well. Not like Chicago's close,
Yeah.
but still. But good for Evgeny Dodonov, by the way. We haven't really talked
Yeah.
about that situation. So those of you that don't know the situation with Evgeny Dodonov, he was originally traded at the trade deadline to Anaheim along with some other players and some other conditions and stuff like that. That part doesn't matter as much. The fact is, he had a no trade clause that Ottawa did not let Vegas know about, and Anaheim was one of those teams on that no trade clause. So eventually they would have a big old, stink about it, an investigation, and that trade was nullified. So Dodonov, it was mostly a cap move by Vegas to get rid of some cap relief and have some more cap relief to get more players back in. But Dodonov scored the overtime goal for Vegas today. And again, as much as I said that I hate that Vegas squandered or that Chicago squandered the lead, that's like a big up yours by Dodonov to the Vegas management. I like to see that.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Well, you pinned it on Ottawa, but
It
Vegas
was
knew
Ottawa. No, it was
Vegas
Ottawa.
knew he had a no trade clause. His contract says a 10-team no trade clause. They didn't get the list of teams from Ottawa. That's Vegas's responsibility. That's their contract. Vegas should contact somebody and figure out who's on the no trade clause before they shop them around or when they get the contract.
And this is a weird thing. I was listening to the Chris Johnson show on SDPN, and they were talking about this whole situation. And apparently, the NHL doesn't keep track of like those lists, like the no trade lists. Like, I don't want to go to the. They don't keep track of that.
It's a contract thing. That's the responsibility of the teams and the agents.
But why doesn't the NHL? I mean, that seems like a very simple thing, just to have a copy of the no trade list and double check it when a trade comes through and say, okay, no, you can't do this. Because it would have saved the NHL a lot of time, would have saved Anaheim a lot of time.
The no trade
Vegas
thing isn't instituted by the NHL. That's an agreement between the player and the team he's playing for. So it doesn't really make sense for the NHL to keep track of that because they're in no way involved in that transaction. That's a agreement between the player and the team. And then when the team ships over the contract, that should be in the contract.
That does make sense. That does make sense. I did say that it was Ottawa's fault for not letting.
I blame Vegas. Trashy Vegas franchise anyway.
And this goes all the way back to how they treated Marc-Andre Fleury when Marc-Andre Fleury was traded for literally nothing. And I can't believe you trade the face of your franchise, a future Hall of Famer, the Vezina Trophy winner from the past year, for nothing, and you treat him like that, and he finds out through Twitter. That's how he finds out. Not through his agent, not through, Vegas management or anything. He finds that out through Twitter. It's just terrible.
So trashy franchise.
Anyways, we hadn't talked about that, but good discussion there. Let's get into the game tonight because there's a lot of things we need to talk about. Kind of the semi-big headline, I guess, coming into tonight's game. It was Boston College versus Boston University in net. So two American-born guys, Demko and Otter. In the first 3 minutes, I didn't write much for the Stars, but I kind of put that Vancouver was controlling that the first 3-4 minutes. And about 16 and a half minutes remaining in the first, it was 2-0 in shots for Vancouver. 16 minutes remaining, Garland had a shot off that was an easy one for Otter to handle. About 40 seconds later, Sagan to Harley. Horn went off, but no goal. And then they just
Yeah.
stopped the play. That was the weirdest thing that I had ever seen.
The
Have you ever
officials this
seen
game
anything
were
like that?
terrible. They're awful. They stopped the play for literally everything. So no, I haven't
Well,
seen anything like that.
well,
He waved it off immediately. The horn went off, and then they blew the whistle. Okay, everybody on the ice knew it
did
wasn't
they
a
blow
goal.
the whistle? I didn't hear it.
He blew the whistle. Yeah.
Okay, maybe I missed that. I didn't hear it, but and it was just like everybody stopped when the horn went off, and I was like, I mean, even in real time when it was first happening, you could easily see that it did not go in the net. It hit the top corner of the net and bounced out. So I don't know, but
And that's
anyway,
the first chance that somehow didn't go in.
and that's the difference in the game. We'll get to more of these. Klingberg with a shot from the point. The Ben, Rad, PD line looked good early in the first period. Later on, not as good. Klingberg was a little rougher tonight on the defensive side of the game, and noticed that more tonight. He had a giveaway in the slot, about 14 and 3/4 remaining in the first. 14 minutes remaining. Hint steals one at the blue line. Pavelski has a shot. It was a great shot, but Demko made a great save on that.
Demko was very good tonight.
Yeah, I mean, he's really come.
He's good at hockey.
Yeah, he's really come into his own, and he's one of those guys that's played just as much as Otter and Hellebuck. That was one of the stat charts that they brought up during the broadcast. So I think he had started 21 since February 10th, I think was the date that they had looked at. So just insane that he's been able to play that much. 13 minutes remaining. The puck rattled around towards Demko, but not much going on there. Then I wrote down the American Airlines Center looked packed, which was really good. And I know it was a Saturday night and everything, but I mean, it was like fully packed. What'd you think?
I mean, we sell out every weekend game, so we sell out almost every weekday game too. So not surprising.
Stars have been in the top 10 in that category percentage wise, with attendance over the past 5 to 10 years. They've been very good. And they say that hockey can't survive in the South.
It can't survive in Arizona.
I guess they can't survive in the desert, yeah. But is that really the South's fault, or is that just because Arizona's poorly ran?
They don't have a lot of fans either, so
you'd be surprised. I mean, that's where arguably the best player in the NHL right now comes from, Austin Matthews. He comes from Scottsdale, Arizona. So just saying. Anyways, I actually wrote this down at this point. Vancouver looked better in the first 3.5 minutes, but the Stars had looked better since. And at that point, 12 minutes remaining, it was 7-3 in shots for Dallas's favor. There was a lot of faceoffs in tonight's game. And I think that's why this game lasted forever. It was like 3 hours almost in this game. There was an Otter stop on a Richardson rebound from a Hughes point shot. It was a good stop by him. At 10 minutes remaining, there was another Klinger D-zone turnover. Rads was really good tonight, getting opportunities, but not burying them. This is the first of 3 that I would mention. He had a good chance in the slot off the rebound, and he was not able to elevate it. 6.5 minutes remaining. The first line with some good ozone time. But again, we didn't get any offense out of them, and when we don't get any offense out of that first line, we typically lose.
Every time.
There was a bouncy puck that confuzzles Demko for a little bit. It looked like an innocent-looking shot, but it kind of confused him a little bit. Podkolzin had a good shot on Otter. Otter made the good save. Ben with 2 chances. He had to double clutch on the second chance, and it probably should have been a goal if he could have gotten it off cleanly.
Yep, there's 2.
And then 2.5 minutes remaining. It was 13-7 in Dallas's favor. And then again, with about a minute remaining, this is the second time I'd mentioned his name, Radulov with another deflection chance. It was a drive-by. It was off the rush. And that would end the first period. And I wrote down Stars were the better team overall in the first period, but they got to connect on more of their chances in the second. And boy, was I right about that. And boy, did it not happen. What'd you think?
Yeah. And we've talked about that all season, is when we have a good first period, we have to take advantage, and we never do. And totally cost us tonight. Obviously, even though we technically lost by 3, we really lost by 1.
It was
So
one. It was one. That we'll talk about that last play here when we get to it. But all right, we're in the second period. 18 and a half minutes. Suter with a bad D-zone turnover. Nothing came of it, thankfully. He kind of saved himself on that. There was a 2-on-1 with Sagan and Robo. Sagan just couldn't make the pass. And Travis Dermott, who recently was acquired from Toronto, had a really good D-zone play. It was great D-zone play.
What I'm wondering on that one is, why is Sagan not shooting the puck? I mean, the D guy was totally playing
the pass.
Oh my gosh, he's totally playing the pass. Yeah. So take a wrist shot. You're Tyler Sagan. Like, that's what you're supposed to be good at. And then all throughout the game, shots from the two I saw was Sagan and Radulov. Their shots were terrible. I mean, Sagan shot it into the logo like twice at least, like from point blank range. Not even possible to go in the net. So, like, think before you shoot the puck, I guess. I don't know, man.
And Sagan's been better, since late November, early December. He's been consistently getting points, not at a high level, but he's still been consistently getting points, like 1 every 2 games, something like that. And I think he was on a 4-game point streak. He was on a 4-game point streak at that point, but it was broken in that game against Carolina when he didn't have a point. But the other thing that I wanted to point out with Sagan, I'm glad you kind of stretched this out a little bit, because Razor mentioned something about it, and I didn't actually think about this. But on the power play, I believe it was the second power play of the night, he looks very hesitant, is what Razor said. Yeah. Like he's not wanting to shoot the puck, and he's got a bomb. He's got a bomb like Garyanov does. I mean, not quite as large as Garyanov's, I would think. But still, he's got a great shot, and he's just not using it. What's the deal with Sagan? Is it just a confidence thing? Because he's still getting points, so I'm not necessarily sure that's a confidence thing. Maybe it's just a power play confidence thing.
He's getting way fewer points than what he's paid to get. So
now that is definitely true. 100%.
I would say he's not really getting points compared to the rest of his career. So I mean, I don't know. He needs to shoot. I mean, the Dallas Stars fan page on Facebook actually posted that Sagan needs to shoot more. Like, his shooting percentage is one of the highest on the team, and he just needs to shoot, and he just refuses to. So I don't know. It's idiotic. And another thing on the power play is, why are we not taking those one-timers? Like, used to, if we had it on the top of the point,
we were taking them tonight.
Across, we took one. We took one.
Garyanov had at least 2. I don't think he had 3, but he had at least 2. But it's just not hitting the net. That's the frustrating thing for me. They're just not hitting the net.
You could say that about the whole game. Like, not hitting the net, hitting the goalie in the chest. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, let's keep going, because we're getting close to that power play section here. After that 2-on-1 by Sagan and Robo, there was a good D-zone play by Lindell. It stopped a possible breakaway, so that was good by Lindell. Pettersson had a good shot in the slot. Sorry, I was getting ahead of myself. Otter made a good save on that. And at this point, I wrote, the Stars are losing a lot of faceoffs in the past 2 games. And I think we ended tonight winning it.
50-50.
It was exactly 50-50. Okay, because I think towards the end of the third, we had like 2 or 3 more faceoff wins than they did. But at that point, we were losing a lot of faceoffs. And the thing is that for us to be successful in the power play, the only way we can get set up on the power play is we have to win that first faceoff.
Yeah, obviously. Oh
and
my gosh.
Another thing
tonight were awful.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrible.
And I kind of wrote this too, because I thought it was kind of funny. You remember when Sagan did the whole "it's good" thing when it went into the net? Tyler Myers did the same thing tonight for Vancouver. So I thought that was kind of funny. About 20 seconds later, 14 minutes and 50 seconds remaining, Garland hits the post, and somehow it does not go in for Tanner Pearson. I don't know how he didn't get that. But talk about missed opportunities for the Stars. Vancouver had some missed opportunities early in that second period.
Vancouver had a couple, but the Stars literally had 5 open nets that they missed. So
while I'm saying more stuff, you should go look at Owen Newkirk and see what he said about quality scoring chances on Twitter, because I'd be interested to know that.
Well, I got it pulled up on natural stat trick.
Oh, okay. Well, not natural stat trick is better actually. So, anyways, while you're doing that, Dallas would get the first goal of the game, which I was excited about. It was an Ozo turnover that was caused by Dallas, and it's been to Peterson, and it's backhand elevation. It goes in the net, and everyone wonders why the heck was Peterson scratched in the last game? Why? And he just continues what he was doing games before. Why is he taken out of the game? I don't understand that.
Stupidity.
That would make it 1-0 Dallas, and they would take the lead. Podkolzin would choke it to the front, and it almost made it behind Otter, and that was about literally 20 seconds after the Stars had taken the lead. And then this wouldn't be the case, but at the time, I wrote Hakanpää was having a really good game defensively, but that
You
would
jinxed
obviously
him, dude.
change. That I completely jinxed him. And then I even wrote some good things about him. They mentioned that he was top 5 in D-man hits in the NHL, which is good. And then he had stepped up in the top 4 defense role with Miro out.
He
So
still had a good game. He had one really stupid play, which led directly to a goal.
he had about 2 or 3 turnovers that I was just like, "What are
Well,
you doing, man?"
everybody on the ice was turning over every single puck that they touched. So I saw that especially with Harley and especially with Klingberg. The
Yeah.
only guy that I didn't see do it was Lindell and Suter.
Now, what's funny is that I immediately jinxed him because the very next thing that I wrote, I was like, 12 minutes remaining. Hakanpää has turned over a puck in D zone. That was the very next thing that I wrote. 5 seconds later, there was a Vancouver deflection. Otter says no. It was a really good save by him. There was a lot of block shots and deflections out of play by the Stars tonight. And I thought they were playing well at that point, defensively, making sure that there weren't a lot of quality chances towards Otter by Vancouver. 20 seconds later, 11 minutes, Nemestikov with a semi-chance. It was kind of a chance, but not really. 10 minutes, 45 seconds. Harley bounces it off the boards, and Sagan with a chance to tuck it home, but he's not able to. 8 minutes, Garland with a backhand. Otter had a save, and at that point, Vancouver was buzzing, and that particular line had been out there for a really long time. And I really thought they were going to score at that point, but they didn't. Hunt, Vancouver had a chance. Otter with a save, and again, that's where I put the Foxen line had been out there for a really long time. And then somehow, at the end of his shift, when he'd been out there for a really long time, Glendening had a semi-breakaway, and Demko makes a save, and Glendening is not able to take advantage of that opportunity.
Shocker. The fourth line didn't score? Whoa. That's crazy.
At the 5-minute mark, I wrote Vancouver spending a lot of time in the Dallas zone. And then finally, we would get the first power play of the game for Vancouver. It was on Hakanpää, so of course, I'm thinking I really screwed this guy over. And then it didn't take long. It took, I think, 16 seconds. At 4 minutes, 35 seconds, Elias Pettersson scores from the high dot. It goes 5-hole in Otter, and I would think he would want that one back. Because
I don't know. I mean, he shot it really hard, and Otter was just coming over. It was just like the perfect spot and the perfect timing. Well, whenever you're coming across, obviously your legs go apart because you're pushing off, and he was bringing them together, and it just went right through, right at the perfect time. So I don't know. I mean, I think yes, he should have that, but then again, it's a one-timer from Pettersson, so you can't blame him too much.
Well, he didn't elevate the shot. And I know it was a hard shot, and Elias Pettersson does have a good shot, but I still think that Otter probably
Well, I would say
want that one
Pettersson
back.
was going for the 5-hole. But
Really?
Oh yeah. When the goal is going across like that, like 5-hole is a good place to go.
Mm-hmm. So, anyways, when it comes to stats for the Stars and allowing power play goals, they had allowed at least one in the last 7 of 8, and in the last 11 of 16. So, we talked about for a while that the Stars, their penalty kill started to look better, but that's obviously not the case right now. But a minute and a half later, Stars would get their first power play and do absolutely nothing with it. It was Luke Shin. He would get 2 for an interference. And what was really frustrating tonight with the power play is they had some good power plays and some bad power plays, but throughout all of them, there were shorthanded chances that Vancouver was getting, and they were just allowing it to happen. 2-on-1s, 3-on-2s. There was a breakaway that JT Miller had that should have never happened, and I'll get to that here in a second. But is that something that you noticed as well?
The more frustrating thing for me was that we couldn't even get in the zone.
That
Like,
that was the other thing I was
we
going to
couldn't
mention.
cross the blue line. And like it can't be that hard. When you have an extra guy doing dump and chase, you have an extra guy on every single puck battle. And you can't win one? Like that's egregious.
So they need to do something different. I'm not sure what that something different is. If it's what I've seen a lot is
I know what
like
it is.
a
It's Heiskanen.
that's true. And speaking of which, we should mention that Miro was on the ice for the morning skate this morning before the game. So he stayed out there longer. So that let everybody know that he probably was not going to play in the game. But that means he's closer. He's getting there. So we'll see.
Yeah, and he's likely going on the road trip, so thank goodness he's coming back sooner rather than later. He probably won't play
Is he going
20
to be
minutes on the first
right?
game,
He's
but
not going to be able to play much to start off with.
well, I mean, Hanley's playing no time, so he can at least play 13 minutes, I bet, and play better than Hanley does.
And now that we're talking about defensemen, we should also mention that Thomas Harley was also in this game over Andre Sekera. So
he didn't play great.
He was okay. He had the really
Yeah,
good
not
rush
good.
chance at the beginning of the game that I wish he had scored, but it is what it
But
is.
it's a miracle he didn't score. I
Yep.
mean, it was a slam dunk that he clanked off the rim, I guess. I don't know how basketball works.
Yeah. Vancouver would kill that off, and then I wrote Stars cannot enter the zone cleanly on the power play unless they win the faceoff.
What did he wrote?
And then I wrote that the
I
Vancouver
don't know what he wrote.
Canucks were the better team in the second period. So they were by far the better team in the second period. But going into the third period.
Oh, you just came back.
Oh, I did?
Yeah.
Stupid internet. I'm really going to have to get this figured out or something.
Yep.
Anyways, it would be tied going into the second intermission, 1-1 by Pedersen and also by Peterson. Try and say that 5 times fast. Peterson. Anyways, what did you think of the play in the second period? I wrote that Vancouver was the better team.
Yeah, Vancouver was better. Yeah, we were pretty much lucky that we went there tied. I didn't think Vancouver had a ton of great chances, but I mean, we did nothing with the puck. So I'm surprised that we scored the goal in this period. Like this was the period that we had the least amount of chances.
So first thing I wrote for the third as it was getting started, Stars need a better period. That's literally all I put because that second period was very bad. And then literally as soon as I wrote that down, Pavelski is back in the defensive zone, defending. He's acting as a defenseman. He screened Otter. The puck ramps off his stick, and Pedersen scores his second of the game. 2-1 Vancouver. What did you think about that shot?
It didn't ramp off his stick. If you look at it, it's just a perfect shot. He went bar down on him. Perfect screen, bar down, great shot. Elias Pettersson, good hockey player. Super annoying. I mean, you can't stop that. It went right by his ear, went bar down. There's nothing you can do about that. Well, you can not have Pavelski be the defenseman, but
Yep. And well, I did not notice that. That was just something that I think it was Razor that said it. Maybe I think it might have been Razor that said it might have ramped off his stick. But
yeah, on the super slow mo, you saw it was just clean bar down.
18 minutes, 15 seconds remaining. Nemestikov had a chance. I thought he's been okay the past couple of games. He hasn't been amazing. He hasn't been, unnoticeable. He's done some things that have been pretty good. I like the nastiness in the first game that he played against the Canes. But
he still shows scrappiness on puck battles and especially on forecheck too, which I like. So
he kind of reminds me with a little bit less energy that Studenic has. So maybe I'd like to see Studenic and Nemestikov together, and maybe that'd be like an energy line or something. Maybe they can be on the fourth line instead of our current fourth line. 18 minutes remaining. Lamico would get a tripping penalty. Stars would go on the power play for the second time. Gary would get a shot, and again, there's another 2-on-1 odd man rush, shorthanded for Vancouver. Otter would make the save to keep them in the game. 16:45, Ben would have a backhand shot, and Demko actually absolutely stoned him. That was and speaking of another player that had a bunch of opportunities tonight, Ben had at least 3 or 4 opportunities tonight and did not bury them. So Vancouver would kill the penalty. 15 minutes, 40 seconds remaining. Podkolzin to Chason, former Dallas Stars second round pick Alex Chason. He would hit the post, and that's when I'm like, I don't think we're coming back in this game when he hits that post.
I still thought we were. I only stopped believing after Lindell missed the wide open net.
It would go to break, and the very first thing they would talk about is comeback victories in the third period, and that surprised me. Stars are tied for third with the most comeback victories in the NHL, which is very different compared to last year. Very much different.
Yep. That and overtime wins completely flip-flopped.
And the two teams above us were Florida, the best team in the East, and Colorado, the best team in the West. So very surprising to see the Stars up there. Anyways, 14 and a half minutes remaining. Lindell with a really big hit on Lockwood. 13 and a half remaining. Rads would get another shot off of the rush and another opportunity. Rads would take a penalty. It was holding the stick. I thought that was a really stupid call.
That was ridiculous.
Tyler Myers raised his hand like, "What the heck, man!" And then they called it as soon as he did that. And I was
they got a power play for dropping their own stick. So right. I don't know how that works out, but.
Anyways, that was the second power play for Vancouver. I wrote there was a lot of zone time for Vancouver, and they were swarming. There was a lot of opportunities for Vancouver, and we were doing decent defensively, but I'm so tired of okay, so you disagree with that?
So. They were all over the place. I mean, they had a lot of wide open shooting lanes that they just didn't take because they were trying to be too fine. I think they should have easily scored on that power play. I thought it was bad. Like, especially whenever they got the puck to the point, we almost never had a forward in the shooting lane. They could have had 5 one-timers in that set.
Well, at the end of that penalty, the Stars would kill it, and towards the end of that that penalty kill for the Stars, Lindell would take the puck out of. Oh my gosh, Ryan, speak words. Lindell would take the puck away from the Vancouver Canucks. He kind of like saw that a pass was coming and took it. And he would get a shorthanded shot, but not much there again, and Demko would make the save. Less than 10 minutes remaining. The first line would force Vancouver to take a penalty. It was the Stars' third power play of the game. And then I wrote, Vancouver has the worst penalty kill in the NHL. Because I was kind of thinking, with the whole Hakanpää thing, and I kind of, jinxed him on that. I was kind of hoping that Vancouver, I would jinx them on it, since they had been 2 for 2 on the penalty kill at that point. It did not work. Demko had an amazing save on Lindell. Stars hit the post. Lindell, that's the difference in the game for me, if you ask me. He needs to bury that.
The Stars have had like 3 of those where it's literally a wide open net and they find a way to miss. That's
I'm thinking of Robo. You remember that one chance Robo had?
Ben had one in the middle of the crease.
Sagan.
That's the other one.
Oh, no, you remember the game I lost my mind on when Sagan was right in the front of the net and he was literally like 2 feet in front of the goalie and it went over the net?
But the goalie was there at least. The other 2, there was no goalie. The Lindell one, there was no goalie. We've missed 3 literally wide open nets is what I'm saying. Not like great scoring chances. These are literally wide open nets. And we can't hit the giant box. If you can't do that, if you can't do that with your stick and the puck, like, how are you in the NHL? And he had time too. He had all the time in the world and just clanked it. And it was off the outside of the post too, not even the inside of the post.
Yeah, and that's the difference in the game. I mean, it was a complete scramble mess by Vancouver's defense at that point. Even after the penalty expired and they were back to 5-on-5, the Stars were like hemming them in their zone. And really at that point, that's when I was like, okay, this game is like really, really over.
Well, and the Stars felt that way too because there was nothing after that.
They didn't do anything after that.
And I'm going to skip ahead because I don't even want to talk about in between this and the 6-on-5. The 6-on-5 starts and the first line is not on the ice. We played the second line. we had Gurionov, Sagan, and new guy Nemesnikov on the ice instead of our number one line, who is one of the best lines in the league.
And really the
I
only
mean,
line
it's
that
stupid.
consistently gets us offense.
It's just flat out dumb. It's a terrible decision. I know there's a full 2 minutes left, but you got a timeout. There's gonna be a stoppage in play for them to get a rest. You have to play your best players. It's not their fault that you managed the game poorly. So yeah, that's another coaching error that I think is ridiculous. And I'll mention the other one that I'm thinking about. The fact that Student is taken out is ridiculous. Student is someone who you can put on the fourth line, and he would be great on the fourth line. That speed on the fourth line would be crazy. And nope, we're just gonna leave that fourth line on there. They're gonna do
Was
nothing.
Radulov on the fourth line tonight, or was he on the third line?
Radulov was on the third line with Ben.
I would rather take Radulov out and put Studenic in. I don't care, because especially after that last game, and I've said it like 3 billion times now, but after that game, he could have cost his team the game. He has not. I mean, he had 3 chances tonight and did not bury it. 3 chances, did not bury it. This is a guy that needs some time to go up to the press box and just watch. I think he needs to get his mind cleared. He is. I understand he's 36. He's not the same Alexander Radulov that he once was when he was that dominating line with Ben and Sagan. But man, I mean, Studenic, we could use that speed over Radulov. I mean, Radulov can't bury anything to save his life right now. How many goals does he have? 3 or 4?
4, I think.
4, and he gets $6 million. And I know it's at the end of a 5-year contract where the first 3 years he was pretty good and had like 70+ points in those seasons. But still, man, Student has impressed over the last couple of weeks, and when he's gotten into the lineup for the first time, I really think that Radulov
Well,
needs to
either
come
way,
out and you
even
put
if
Student in.
even if you don't take Radulov out and he's playing fine or whatever, which he's not, I agree with you. But even if that's true, Studenic is better than anyone on the fourth line right now. Like, and especially Raffle. Like, why is Raffle in over Studenic ever? That's just terrible.
That line is they get
Useless.
so
It's
many they
useless.
get so many chances and they don't bury any of their chances.
They don't get so many chances.
Glendening,
They get odd breakaways because no one takes them seriously, and then they just don't score on them. And people are like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. We didn't take them seriously because they're not to be taken seriously because they're not good at hockey.
I like
So,
Glendening because he's got speed, and I'd like to see
not really.
him.
He is not that fast.
I think he's very fast.
Mm.
But if you're
Studenic is
gonna
way
take,
fast.
yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that. Student has some speed, but if you can have Glendening and Student on the same line together, that gets you a little bit of speed on the fourth line. I'd like to see that.
Yeah, I'm saying anything though. Like, especially Foxa. Like,
He
everyone's
has
expecting him
had
to
a
have a
rough
bounce
year,
back year this year, and it's been literally the opposite. I mean, last year was terrible, and this year is not any better. Like, it's really not. It's probably worse.
and he got a new contract at the beginning of this year, right? For like 3
I
million,
believe so.
a
Yeah,
little
I don't
over 3
even. I want
million.
to look that up real quick. So
I think it was like it was between 3 to 5 years for like 3.2 million ish, something like that. And he either signed that this year or the year before. So he has not had a good
3.25.
year. Ah, look at me.
That's crazy. We're paying a fourth line center who doesn't do anything $3 million.
I don't think he doesn't do nothing, but he's had a rough year.
He has
And
some awful stats.
okay, hit me with him.
All right, the stats this year. Why are you showing me this? All right, this
Gotta
year
love
he has
technology.
3 goals and 11 assists and a minus 19.
That's bad, especially for a guy that says he's a checking line center.
Yeah. So that's garbage.
What about for? Do you have his career stats in front of you? Can you look at some of his,
Yeah.
like from years past, what his plus minus was?
Yeah. So
And
let's
again,
see.
you and I both. I should mention this too. You and I both hate plus minus in general, but when it comes to somebody like this who is known as a checking line forward, like that's what he's known for is his defense. he has to have a good plus minus. That has to be the case.
Since the 2018-2019 season, he has not been in the positive. He has 2 seasons in the positive. His first year in 2015-2016, he was +9. 2 years after in 2017-2019, he was +21. That was the season he scored 17 goals. Yeah,
And that
that's
seems
it.
to be a complete afterthought. I can't believe that he scored 17 goals.
Well, that's when we were still hoping and expecting him to be a second
Maybe
line
second
center.
line. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, no. And we still gave him an increase in pay.
Yeah.
And it's a
Well,
5-year too.
so I was right. I thought I wanted to say 3, but I was like, I think it's more than that. Anyways, just to finish it off, Bo Horvat hits the empty net. We already talked about that. 6-on-5. The
After a
Stars
terrible 6-on-5,
suck. The
awful.
Stars they absolutely suck at 6-on-5 this year, in both sides, defense and offense. Whether they have the lead or they're trying to get a tying goal, either way.
Yep.
So, and then just to put a nail on the coffin and make it look worse, Miller with a rebound off of a Luke Shen point shot. There were 4 Dallas Stars players in the corner. It's like I know you just lost the game, but come on, really, 4 players in the corner. That's why that happened. And Vancouver
Whatever.
would make the score look worse. 4-1, they win. So
yeah, just a terrible hockey game. I'll end it with what I started with. Gave away the 2 points that we won the other night. That's truly awful. Do you have anything you want to say about the game before I move on?
do you want to do your biggest winner, biggest loser?
Oh yeah, we'll do biggest winner, biggest loser.
You want,
Biggest winner, Elias Pettersson. That guy's crazy good at hockey. Oh my gosh, and he's so fun to watch. That is so
got a
cool.
good shot. Got a really good shot.
Absolutely, he's crazy.
Biggest loser?
Oh, I'm doing both. I thought you don't got a biggest winner?
I have both. I have both. Yeah.
Okay, I'll go biggest loser. Biggest loser is Rick Bones. I mean, for the reasons I already talked about.
There's no point in talking about it, so we're not going to talk about it because it's not going to happen, especially at this point in the season. So,
bro, if he gets re-signed this offseason, I'm literally going to lose my mind. I'm not even kidding.
Riot. Anyways, my biggest win.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Eric just totally caught me. The biggest loser is obviously Esa Lindell.
I was about to say that was going to be my biggest loser in tonight's game was Esa Lindell. So Eric, you are correct. Esa was my biggest loser in tonight's game.
I can't believe I forgot about that.
I will not just put him as the biggest loser, but I will put all the players that had a lot of extra chances tonight. Ben was a big loser. He had at least 3 or 4 chances. Radulov had 3 chances. He was a big loser, but the biggest loser of all of them was Esa Lindell just because he missed the open net. And I didn't have any problems with him defensively. He always does. He does very well, very solid defensively. But man, you gotta bury that,
man.
dude.
Bury that puck. Net.
Bury it. But and then my biggest winner tonight is Thatcher Demko, in my opinion.
Yep.
He kept, especially in the first period, he kept the Vancouver Canucks in that game. And that's exactly what you need from your goalie when you're on the road in a game like this. Yeah, you really need him to be your best player in the first period to kind of
especially in the first period.
Quiet. Yeah. And I mean, this is a playoff style game, in my opinion, because these are 2 teams who are fighting for their playoff lives at this point. Dallas has a little bit more I should say it like this, has a better opportunity to make the playoffs than Vancouver does. The math is very much against them right now, but they took care of what they could control tonight, which was to be the Dallas Stars, and they did. And they did not give them a point in overtime either. So that's another positive they could look at if you're the Vancouver Canucks. But in general, to wrap up the game tonight, biggest thing is missed opportunity, missed chances.
Yep.
So that's
ahead though. Moving along from this horribleness, the Stars are going to be playing a lot of bad teams. I think 8 of their next 9, or is it 7 of their next 8 are against
Seven
teams
of the
that are
next
not in the playoffs.
8, I believe.
Yeah. So the next two games are both against Anaheim, both in Anaheim. Okay, whoever scheduled that. It's on Tuesday and Thursday, both at 9 p.m. Gotta love it. And then after that, we have San Jose. Those
Seattle.
three are must wins. Seattle, you have to win. New York is charging up pretty well, so
You would think they'd want redemption from that last game, though. They should have
absolutely.
played better against New York.
Toronto's gonna beat us.
Again, another redemption game where I would just want to at least see them play better against Toronto. I would mark that one as an L. That's fine, but I want to see them play better.
Yep. And then we have
Tonight, it's frustrating that we lost, but they still played well. They just didn't bury their chances.
we
That's
played better
just the
than
frustrating thing.
we played better than we played against the Canes, and we lost.
Way better, way better. Yeah.
And then we have New Jersey and Chicago to finish out that little set that I'm describing.
Mhm.
And you have to win those to give yourself the buffer space. It's not horrible going down the stretch. We still have a decent amount of teams that are need to wins, but we got Tampa Bay, Minnesota. You have Edmonton, who could be fighting for their lives, Calgary and Vegas at the end, who could also be fighting for their lives. So if we want to get into the playoffs, we better get comfortable in these next couple of games and get solidly in that second spot, because it could get lost quick at the end of the season, especially with a lot of two back-to-backs in that second set that I described.
Yeah.
And very little rest. The whole month of April, we have one back-to-back day of rest.
Yeah, so this upcoming two day off is their last time they get 2 days off until April 24th and 25th. So it's either game day off, game day off, game day off, or game day off, whatever, until those 2 days, 24th and 25th of April. So we'll see what the Stars can do. We'll hope that they can pull out a couple of wins against Anaheim next week. The preacher at our congregation is a huge Ducks fan, so he's originally from California. So we'll see how all that goes. But couple of announcements that I wanted to make is, first off, we just released our first phase of our merchandise. If you want to order some merchandise, you can go to sarcasticremarksshop.com and look at the merchandising options that we have there. We've got some, we got a water bottle. There's a coffee mug on there, lots of clothing, apparels, and even a backpack, which is kind of cool. So if you want to go check that out, we'd appreciate that. That directly supports our podcast. And then second thing, the game on Tuesday against Anaheim, I will be going live and doing a watch along on the Hockey Podcast Network YouTube channel. So if you want to join along with me, stay up late with me on that night, love to see you there. The game will start at 9, so we'll probably start the live stream around 8:45, maybe 8:50. And I'll be online for about 2.5 hours, and then we'll be right back here with you guys with an AGR right after that game as well. So I'm going to be on camera for a long time on Tuesday. So we'll see how that goes. But Chris, you got anything else?
That's it. I'm done. So
when are you going to Nationals? When is that? Next week?
The first week of April.
First week of April.
It'll be the 3rd through the 10th. So
all right.
I could potentially miss like 5 games. But
yeah, that would be insane.
We'll see.
We'll see. But all right, I think that's going to do it for us tonight. Along with Chris, my name is Ryan. This is Starcastic Remarks, the after game review for Game 63. Stars lose this game by a final score of 4-1, but really it was 2-1. Who cares? They lost, but 2 points that we could have had to tie it up with a bow. Got to get those scoring chances and bury them. Thank you again to DraftKings for sponsoring us. Use the promo code THPN the next time you go and use their app or their website. We'd appreciate if you go and do that. Thank you guys for tuning in and for listening to this whenever you do, whether it's afternoon, evening, morning, whenever. And we'll catch you on the flip side. See you guys later.